All right. Hi, everybody. Sorry about the brief hiccup there, but I forgot to put my phone on airplane mode. My name is Shanth Enjeti. This is Shanth Enjeti Art, and I am working on a painting for my upcoming book, Rigor Mortrek's Shanth Enjeti Art Book 2. The link is in the description. Doing some detail work today. I'm pulling some highlights out right here on the fur. Testing out a new mic setup right now, so we'll see how it works out. Hopefully I'm a little bit clearer, and hopefully I have selected the correct audio. This is going to be, this is the last piece that I started for book 2, and it seemed like a right fit for it. And we had just crossed, I think, 6,000, and I wanted to do something special. So this is the largest piece I think that I've ever done in watercolor and gouache. So here you go, folks. Hope everybody is having a pleasant, this can be expected, a pleasant Monday. There we go. Let's see here. Right now I'm using a Pelican Pan opaque watercolor set, and this right here is mixed in with a little bit of white gouache, and that is how I work. I'd also like to send out a hello and a best wishes to a friend of mine from Rhode Island named Michael, who is recovering from a procedure in the hospital, and I hope he is well and doing okay, Michael. There we go. These finishing touches that you'll see me doing are all a part of trying to make sure that I get the proper amount of detail into this. So I'm slowly but surely getting myself more of a studio space right here where I'm working. Hung up a Rocketeer poster by the amazing Dave Stevens, one of my heroes and one of the nicest people I ever met working in the comic book industry. Speaking of which, rest in peace, Denny O'Neil. Denny O'Neil was a longtime editor and writer at DC Comics, an amazing person, and responsible for so much of the industry's success during its one of its heydays. There we go. It's coming together. Let me see here. Okay, good. All right. Okay, what do I need to do there? Okay. Let me move this over a bit. Let's see if I can scoot that over and get a little bit more light on the painting. There we go, a little bit less light on me. That was getting a little bit warm. So I got some new pens that I'm going to try out a little bit. And these are Faber-Castell Pitt pens. Just got these in from an order that I placed at Dick Blick. And I've never had a, I guess it's blick.com now, but I've never had super fine points of some of these colors. So we're going to see how well they work. I wanted to try a red. And I've had this a dark maroon pen before, but I've never had a red and then some of the oranges that I've gotten in here. So we'll see how those work out. I'm going to try a bright red right here and see what happens. See if I like what it does. Oh, that's kind of nice. Hope you guys can see that all right. Let's see. There we go. It's always a little bit awkward when I'm using a pen and I'm working vertically right now because the piece is so large I can't really have it in my lap. And that gives it a nice kind of nice quality to it when I'm putting in those highlights. Okay, I think that's working. Let's see where we can go. I'm trying not to block my own view of it while still letting you guys be able to see what I'm doing. There we go. Let me know in the comments section and in the chat how the audio is sounding to you guys. I hope it sounds okay. This is my first time using something specifically designed for the audio. I've been using the microphone that is in my computer, in my laptop, and or the microphone in my iPhone. So those aren't really great options. There we go. A little disappointed. I just found out that King Kong versus Godzilla has been pushed back. I mean, hopefully that's a good thing that it's been pushed back. They're hopefully working on it and making sure it's as good as it can be. I think the first Kong versus Godzilla film that we got is going to be a tough act to follow. I'm a big fan of Toho's kind of playful sensibilities when they're making their flicks. And I'm a little concerned it's going to be a little too self-important and they're going to take themselves way too seriously. I think that you can take a story seriously but have it take place in a world that it's not so... what's the word I'm looking for? Not so self-important, which I think is something we should all be trying to avoid these days. But then again, I think we should be avoiding that in general. I want to be entertained when I look at artwork. I want to be entertained when I look at films. And I remember looking at those early Toho films, and they have such a great sensibility to them and just really are beautiful and not self-conscious. I was looking at an artist whose name I'm not going to butcher, who was working today. Is working on a bande dessinée book, and I think the artist is out of Korea. Most of you guys know their work. They're incredibly fast and incredibly skilled, and I was just so entertained and so impressed by the skill level the artist was using, and I just thought, that's what I want to see. I want to see artwork that inspires me, and that is what the purpose is when I'm doing these things. Is I want the work to be something that's exciting and energetic and thrilling. And that's what book 2 is about for me. But that's what all my artwork's going to be about. I'm interested in doing stuff that is compelling. And when people back my book, and the link is in the description, when people back my book, I want them to get something that feels like someone trained a couple of decades to get this good. And put a lot of time into it, a lot of detail into it. So you can see how the fur is kind of shaping up right now, and one of the things I'm working on is trying to give it that Art Nouveau feel without having it be too soft. And that's the real trick. That's the line that I'm kind of walking. That I've got a lot of stylistic conventions in my work that aren't always the answer in the way that I need to go with my work. So this is one of them. And I'm going to try to start streaming a lot more regularly. I've been working on my setup, and then I've just had a ton of stuff I've wanted to get to work on for book 2. My good buddy, Cameron Davis, who is an amazing illustrator and artist and concept artist in his own right, is going to be writing the intro to book 2. So I'm really excited about that. Cameron has just done incredible artwork. He's worked for a lot of different people, but and that's all. It's incredible. I would not want to take away from that. He's an amazing guy in his career, but he's also just a really, really cool person and a brother. And I've known him now for a decade or so. And when it came time to look at all the people that I'm going to put and select for doing these intros, they're people who I'm really close to, and people who know what the journey has been about for me. So shout out to Cameron Scott Davis if he's out there, and he's told me he's actually I should pester him and ask him how the intro is going. I may have to do that later. So we'll see. All right, I'm going to do something I shouldn't do, but I kind of want to do right now, which is I'm going to put a highlight in right here on the fur. It's a little bit much for what I'm doing here. It's a little contrasty, but I don't care. I love the way the gel pen can pull highlights out on this stuff. If I can get my setup's a little tricky here. There we go. Got to make sure I keep the pen reasonably vertical so the ink will come out. There we go. It's a little bit better. Probably just use white paint. And again, my name is Shanth Enjeti, and this is Shanth Enjeti Art. Working on a piece for Rigor Mortrex, Shanth Enjeti Art Book 2. Link is in the description. There we go. In case anybody comes in, I would not envy having to guess how my name is pronounced. I'm a chicken when it comes to pronouncing names sometimes. I've been inspired by so many artists all over the world, amazing artists, and really excited to pick up the book, which I hopefully can pronounce the name of, but I can't remember what it's called. The bande dessinée book by the artist I was mentioning before. I have to figure out what it's called, though. It'll come to me. But the publisher Glenot is putting it out, and it is not coming to me. There we go. Put that contrast note in there a little bit. There we go. Got a little bit of gouache on the camera there. So we'll see how that goes. All right. And here we go. All right. That looks all right. See here. There. I think that saying there when you're painting is something that the world owes Bob Ross a thank you for, because I cannot stop myself from saying it when I'm working. That's what I'm talking about. Those graceful little lines. That's what we're after. I mean, to me, and I'm about to get all ramped up, get all excited about this, but to me, if you're in the art game, you gotta be excited about the whole thing. You gotta feel really, really excited about it. I don't know how to not feel excited about work, other artists' work, my work. When I see people doing campaigns and crowdfunding stuff, that's the fun bit for me. Like I see artists who are out there and they're putting their chin out there, they're putting their work out there, and they're putting it on the line. They're not, and hopefully they're doing something that's great and amazing. You do not need anything but your talent in this day and age to get your work out there. There is no shortage or of platforms to put your work out there on. And I think that's the cool thing to me about it. I've looked at a lot of different platforms. There's some I mean, not in terms of crowdfunding, but I've looked at a lot of different platforms, and I've looked at a lot of different ways of working. And the thing for me is that YouTube, the thing that makes YouTube interesting to me is you're going straight to your audience. They're seeing you work, and it's just a lot more personal. And you're kind of putting yourself out there in a way that, ultimately I think it's the indie comic book scene that was born in the 80s, for me, my indie comic scene, not the whole indie comic scene, but the one that came out in the 80s that was so inspiring to me, and then led to indie comic companies and a lot of the stuff that we're seeing, or that we've been seeing for the last couple of decades, were so inspiring to me, but it was so hard to get your work out there. What a lot of people don't realize, and I was listening to, I think, Bill Burr and Joe Rogan talking about this the other day, and they were saying you don't need a huge audience in order to have a career where you're doing well. You do not need to do everything through an intermediary. If you've got talent, you're it. You're the game. When you pick up my book, it's going to probably, more than probably, it's going to be mailed to you by me. The only thing I'm not doing is printing the thing up. And so when I think about that, I get excited. I'm like, where is, and I think I'm seeing it starting to happen, but the next generation of great work and great artists and people putting their stuff out there. And what's really cool is that I'm seeing artwork from all over the world. That's really cool. So yeah, very excited about that. You can see behind me right there, the Rocketeer movie poster that was a version of it painted by Dave Stevens, and I wish it was the one they went with. But Dave Stevens, the creator of the Rocketeer, I had the opportunity to meet him at San Diego Comic-Con when I was in college, I think it was, and he was just a terrific, terrific guy and terrific artist. I'm a huge fan of his artwork. In another life, if I had another skill set, I would have loved to have painted and drawn like him. Just a fantastic artist. And just introduced me to be more specific. He introduced me to old movies, classic cars, Rocket Men, and a lot of this stuff that inspires me today. Love Dave Stevens. Dave Stevens is, I'm trying to think about this. There's a handful of comic book artists that were the biggest influences on me, and that's outside of my mentor, Brian Stelfreeze. He's in a class by himself. He actually spent time teaching me how to do things. But I think Dave Stevens is probably on that list right after Todd McFarlane. And probably that would be the most, accurate, way to list in terms of their influence, the artists who had the biggest impact. Let me see what I got here. Okay. Now let's see. Is that going to be dark enough? I'm not going to be using a pen for this, even though I could. I might end up using a pen. But I'm just defining some of the hair right there that's right along his neckline. There we go. But man, I was looking at a lot of film this week. The film I'm looking at the most, and I am dying to see what Michael at the Choice Voice thinks of it. Michael at the Choice Voice gave a review of my first art book that I really appreciate. It was a very, very kind review. And I sent him a copy of The Seven Samurai, the Criterion edition of it. Now, if you've never seen the Criterion, and this actually started because on a stream, I think it might have been last stream. It's been a long time since I've streamed. I've been just buried with work here. But on my last stream, a former student of mine, I think it was Kevin, asked me what my favorite Kurosawa film was. Apologies if wasn't Kevin. And to whoever it was who suggested it, or who asked me, and I went down and I said, bugs. I went and I said, my favorite Kurosawa film. Oh, this is so annoying. Now I'm gonna have a fly in here, but not for long. But he asked me what my favorite Kurosawa film was, and I gave some personal favorites. But at the end of the day, the single best introduction I could have gotten to Kurosawa films, and it's the one I got, was watching the Criterion Seven Samurai DVD at the time. Now I'm watching that Blu-ray, and with the Michael Jeck audio commentary. Michael Jeck, there's a scholar's commentary on it that's great, and I wouldn't say that Michael Jeck is not, a scholar in any sense. He's, gave a perfectly wonderful commentary. But the thing about it is that when you're listening to the Michael Jett commentary and watching that movie, it feels like you're watching the movie with the coolest and smartest friend in the world. He's so personable. He's so enthusiastic when he's talking about the work, and I love that commentary. He does one from for Kurosawa's film Throne of Blood, which is my favorite Shakespeare adaptation. And if you haven't seen Seven Samurai, do yourself a favor and watch it. There's certain movies and certain things that people should be aware of. Some involve, actually, I should say the main ones to me involve the human condition. This stuff's all been done before, over and over and over again, and sometimes it's been done better. And if you don't think it's ever been done better, you're at a tremendous loss. Whenever I'm working, whenever I'm painting, the thing that drives me is a sense of humility and a sense of it's interesting. I was listening to a YouTuber talk about this the other day that I follow, and he was saying that one of the biggest problems that we're seeing right now in the arts, and I would agree, is people who have no ability to critique their work and no sense of urgency that they need to improve. They just think they're awesome. And I definitely was not like that when I was in my 20s or 30s. When I was looking at the comic book industry, when I was looking at any creative endeavor, I knew there were giants in that field, and I was standing on their shoulders when I was working with the characters they created or the companies that they built. And at the same time, I was going to, and I still go to, museums, and I see amazing artists. And when I look at those artists, I think, whoa, and I try to impress this upon my students. Look, these guys were amazing. These guys did things that it is healthy and normal and justifiable to be humbled by. And if you're not humbled by them, you're an idiot. I'm sorry to bring that word into the stream, but it's really, really true. That if you're not blown away by just the amount of work that has shaped and built our culture and built fantasy or science fiction or any of it, any of the genres, cinema, animation. Like if you look at a Studio Ghibli film and you're not impressed and you think that's the same as, well, frankly, almost anything else, then you're missing something. If you're not looking at the work that Weta does and having your mind blown, I don't know what to tell you. And I think that for me, I think that comes from that humility is something that maybe has to be reinforced in some cases. Some people just, I don't know if you can fix somebody who's convinced of their own genius. I don't know how that works exactly. But I think that the thing that was important for me was understanding history. And it's weird. The young artists who were kind of coming in and trying to shake things up in the industry that I was the most interested in when I was a young artist, which would be comic books, they still had the wherewithal and the sense back in the day to give credit to people like Jack Kirby, people like Jim Steranko or Dick Giordano or any of those people. And it's one of those things to where when people don't have a sense of their history and they're kind of like, everything that came before isn't important, you're going to see it in the work. I mean, the stuff that's around me is inspirational. It's stuff that I like, but it's my tribute to the brilliant artists who came before me. Whether it's Universal Pictures founder Carl Laemmle, Universal Horror producer Carl Laemmle Jr., those are the things that speak to me. Those are the things that inspire me. There's nothing overtly almost got that word out. There's nothing overtly iconoclastic about my work. The stuff that I do is done with a reverence to stuff, to the artwork and to the artists who came before and inspired it. That doesn't mean I have to have every artist I've ever seen's influence in each piece I do, but it's never done with disdain, I can tell you that. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. That's not looking too bad. I think we're getting there. It's a little bit tedious to do. And it might not make for must-see TV, that's for sure. Or must-see YouTube, but I got to test this mic out. And I got to work on these pieces. I want to get them done. I can't wait to get this book together. I think what I'm probably going to do with this one is I'm going to scan it in and use it in a very similar way I did with my last Kong versus Godzilla inspired piece. I think that's what I'm going to do. I think that's the best move for this. And again, anyone just tuning in, this is Shanth Enjeti Art. My name is Shanth Enjeti. Sean with a TH. And I know it's tricky. If it wasn't my name, I wouldn't know how to say it. There we go. Boy, time is flying by this time. I'll try to do a few more of these things. I had them going regularly. It's just so strange. I was doing them late at night, and I may even do another one tonight. I may stream a lot today. Or I might not. We'll see. I'm not making too many promises right now. But I had a bunch of these going, and I enjoy doing them, and I think it's a responsibility for me in terms of promoting my work to make sure that I do them. Because that's how people are going to find out about your work. That's how people are going to see what you're doing and what you're up to. And I can't overstate that. I was listening to a comic book artist who was talking about promoting his work, and he had something really, really great to say. He said, because he took a shot at my excuse. I was really disappointed. I was really proud of my excuse. But he took a shot at my excuse for why I don't do things and why I don't put my stuff out there. He said, so I hear a lot of people say to me that I'm an introvert. I can't put myself out there. I can't put my work out there. And he's like, well, congratulations. We're all introverts. You're not special. Never a bad thing to hear. But he said, you're not special. Do you want to get your work out there or not? And I think that every now and again as artists, we need to hear that and we need to pass that along. It's not a holy cause what we're doing at all. It's a craft. It's a skill. And when I'm working, part of my job is to make sure that everybody knows that I've got an art book coming out. And that art book is, you get to that art book by the link in the description. That's the job. When you got something to sell and you've got artwork that you're into and you believe in the stuff that you do, you have to show it. You have to walk the walk. Otherwise, it's like you're abandoning your artwork. And I'm not interested in abandoning my artwork. I put a lot of effort into it, and I want people to see it, and I want you guys to enjoy it. Whether and watching it is part of it, but the thing that makes it all possible is having people back those Indiegogos and make it happen. And make me able to print the book and mail it to you and have it look really good. And I thank you guys for your support. All of you who've backed it and checked it out. It's great. We really appreciate it. And the money goes straight to our family. That's how it works. And I just got a ton of new pens from, I don't think I've ever, are they changing the names of the pen? Oh my gosh. I just picked up a pen that's usually an S size, a Faber-Castell Pitt pen that's usually an S size, and it says 0.3. So I think they might be changing the names of their pens from Superfine or whatever the weird, it's the weirdest naming system, because then there's an XS and it's extra Superfine. And I'm like, it's like they kind of overshot the target there. Let's see if this works here. That one's not working. I'm going to have to go to this one. I think this one will work. There we go. Hope you guys can see it. Oh, and thank you for the likes. I do appreciate it. Okay, there we go. I'm going to be a part, again, I don't know if I'm going to be doing the opening remarks, but I'm going to be a part of the Bristol Warren Art Night again, and I'm going to be doing a demo for that. So some of this work that you're seeing might find its way into the short demo that I'll probably do for that, which is, it's always fun to help them out and promote the arts in the area where I live. Big believer in what art can do for a community and how important it is for us to be conscientious in our craft and in terms of thinking about gaining the skills, because it is a absolutely, I don't want to say it's a lonely journey, but I mean, lonely is to me a bit dramatic, but it's something that you're no one's going to learn to draw for you. That's just not going to happen. You have to do the work. It's like going to the gym or anything else, for a sport. You've got to train, you've got to go, and you've got to do the weights, and you've got to improve yourself, and you've got to get better. That's what it's about. And that's what people are owed. When you pick up my book, it's going to look like I put a ton into it. That's the goal. I was actually looking at book 1 and comparing the artwork in book 1 to book 2. And I just laid out all the artwork on the floor. And I was like, let's take a look. Is there a piece in book 2 from a technical standpoint, not from a personal preference standpoint, but is there a piece in book 2 that falls shy of the standard that I set up with book 1? And I was pleasantly surprised, because as I started doing it, image for image, I would go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's a really strong piece. I was surprised at how many pieces of artwork I've made for this book that are just doing new things and raising the quality level. Okay, I think that's happening there. Good. All right, so let's see here. So I feel like I've got that kind of fiery, intense quality happening right there with the fur. That's looking good. I think that works. So let me take a look and see where I'm at here with the lightning here in the hands. There we go. That's coming together. Okay, let's see what else we need to do here. And the lightning is, I can think of some choice words. The lightning is difficult. It's very difficult to figure out how to get the lightning the way that I want it. Because you're painting something that, and it's true for all of this, but in particular with lightning, you're painting something that's atmospheric and kinetic in a way that you can lose some of the grace of it when you're trying to put in some of the character of it with more more refined, I think is what I'm looking for, more refined lines. And that's what I'm going to be continually trying to balance out as I work on the lightning. That's a huge part of it. There we go. And it picked up a little bit of a color I don't want in there, which is like a red, probably still left over in the brush from the what I was doing there before. So I'm going to remove that and bring it forward a little bit more, or cool it down a little bit more. There we go. Starting to come together. It's funny, a lot of the YouTubers that I follow, talking about entertainment, talking about movies, talking about pop culture, I always say to them, and I think a lot of us do, oh man, thanks, you're keeping me sane. And I think that after a long day of work and a long career of studying, it's really important to sit back and be inspired for the next day's work. And I know that that's what movies have done for me, and that's what talking about movies has done for me. And just going back to a point I made before regarding, Criterion and Michael Jeck talking on Seven Samurai. If you want to see a movie that takes you through the full range of emotions and watch it with one of the coolest people in the world, listen to Michael Jeck's audio commentary for the Seven Samurai. That thing is amazing. But I was watching the way that Kurosawa, painted with the camera and the way that he used the light in that picture, and it was just incredible. Absolutely incredible. And it got me inspired to paint. That's what great artwork does. And I think it's important to say that movies are not great because they are old. Old movies are talked about because they are great. So if you take a movie that's awful and you dig a hole and you put it in the ground for a while, it's not going to become a great film. And Seven Samurai is a great film. And Jack Kirby is an important artist and a great artist in comic books. And so is Jim Steranko. So is Dave Stevens. So is Bernie Wrightson. So these people are great, not because, it's arbitrary. They're great because they brought a lot to the art form. And it's funny enough, but it's it's one of those kind of amazing things that it's a handful of really great artists that are the inspiration for what keeps us going. And they contribute the vast majority of influence on any given art form. And that's true of manga, that's true of comics, that's true of animation. If you ask people who are the important people who are leading it and making stuff happen in any given field, it's not going to be a lot of people. And those people are the ones we're most appreciative of, or we should be the most appreciative of, because when you have a couple of visionaries in a field, they have a tremendous impact on everybody else. So you get a couple of really powerful, prominent artists who are, and when I say powerful, I mean they're making a connection with an audience. You have more money in that industry, or you have more money in that art form, of people are checking it out. They're the best advertising in the world, and they disproportionately contribute to everybody's success. So it's important to make sure that that's acknowledged, that's a huge part of it. I mean, I was going to the comic book store when I was a kid for Todd McFarlane. That's why I was getting up and going to the comic book store. And when I was going to that comic book store, the comic book shop owner was asking me if I had checked out this artist or checked out that artist. And I was buying comics and buying other people's comics because of Todd McFarlane. And I think that it's the same way with movies. It's the same way with, any art form that's working. There are music scenes. There's all kinds of different ways in which this happens. But there are people who will come into a field and get opportunities in a field because of a visionary who is going in there and doing great stuff. And those are the people that I'm the most grateful for, are the people who are kind of the light for everybody else. And sometimes they're the people who show us the way forward when there needs to be progress in an industry, whatever that industry may be. Okay, I think that's starting to work. All right, gang. Well, I'm going to get reset up. I'm going to do some changes on this piece, and I'm going to come back and continue this stream in a little bit. Take care, everybody, and I will return soon. This is Shanth Enjeti Art. Please check out the link in the description to Shanth Enjeti Art Book 2, Rigor Mortrex, and I will see you guys soon, probably later tonight. Take care.